Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I want to talk about basement studios because I get asked a lot about my basement studio, and I often get comments like, oh, you're so lucky to have all that space and I wish I had a studio and all of that. And yes, I am lucky to have all this space. I know not everybody has it, but I also know a lot of people do have basement spaces that they're not using, or maybe they're just filled with junk, and they might be able to carve a little bit of a space out to make a studio or a craft area so that they can have a place kind of away from the hustle and bustle of the regular house where they can leave a mess out, they can leave a project up on an easel and not have to pack it away because they need to cook dinner on the kitchen table. And I think having a space of one's own is a really wonderful thing. So let's first talk about the pros of having a basement studio. In a lot of cases, it's free. A lot of cases, your basement is area that's underutilized, or it's utilized just for storage. And if there's any way you can get rid of some of the things you're storing, like maybe you realize that you got a lot of stuff there that maybe belong to your kids, or maybe belong to, your spouse and they don't want it anymore. Maybe you can clear out some of that stuff to make a space for you. It's separate from your living area. So for me, that's really helpful because this is my home-based business, and having this separate from my living area, I don't have to see a mess. I can leave something out until I'm done working with it, and I can shut the door at the end of the day, at the end of the workday, and not be tempted to kind of go back in and work on something a little bit more. So I like that it's separate. If somebody comes by unexpectedly, they're not going to see this huge crafty mess on my kitchen table because it's all downstairs. It's all contained away from the major living space. It's not going to cramp anybody else's style, or it's not going to be anything I'm going to be embarrassed to leave out for days and days. I feel like when you have to pack up a project several times, it creates friction and it makes you less likely to finish that project. So just even if it's a card table in your basement where you can leave stuff out, it's great. Being able trust me, being able to leave a project out till you're done with it is just a blessing. You can control your lighting and sound. Like generally your basements are not going to have windows. So the downside is you're not going to get natural light, but the upside is you can use, like what I like to use, and I'll just turn my camera around really quick and you can see. I like to use these aluminum lights you can get at the hardware store. You can order them on Amazon. I think I got mine at like the Home Depot, and they are they're a clip-on aluminum reflector light, and then I put the daylight CFL or LED bulbs in there, so they're energy efficient and they give me that natural light tone. And I can put as many or as few as I need just to kind of put light exactly where I need it, task lighting where I need it. So you don't have to spend a lot of money putting lighting in. I'll show you at the end of the video how I've dealt with some issues, because I didn't have this finished room for like forever. I only had this for the last 2 years, and I was in just an unfinished corner of the basement to the 10 years prior to that. So I'll show you how I dealt with any issues. But the great thing about those lights is if you're in an unfinished basement, they will clip to your floor joists and you can move them around so easily. And I still film in the old area, and it's great because I can adjust my lighting, move it where I need it, and I mean, you really can't beat the space. Another pro is that you can also control the sound. So not only do you control your lighting so you can work any time of day or night, but generally you're not hearing sounds of like construction going on outside or people mowing their lawns and things like that, which is helpful for me since I make my living teaching online and I can film anytime during the day. I don't have to wait for my neighbor to stop mowing the lawn or worry that he's going to come home on his motorcycle and it's going to be heard on my video. You have very controlled sound when you're in your basement. It's probably why every horror movie ever traps their people in the basement, their victims in the basement. Nobody can hear you scream, and nobody can hear you film, and you can't hear the other people. So that's YouTubers, man, use your basements. So those are the best pros. You know, the space, the often space nobody wants, controlling the mess, controlling the chaos. Those are all the pros, and those are why, that's what's kept me in the basement for so long. Even though my kids have gone off to college and my son's moved out, I could theoretically take over one of those rooms up there, but there's just too many benefits to being down here for right now that I'm staying put. And eventually I'll be moving. When we built our addition on, we knew that was going to be my art studio eventually after the kids are fully moved out and we move back into the main part of the house for our bedroom, but I'm in no rush to move out of here because there are so many pros. Now, there are cons, and these are the cons you're probably going to first deal with when you begin to look into creating a basement studio. Now, I know this video isn't for everyone. I guess you probably aren't watching this unless you're thinking about creating a space in your basement for crafting. So like I said, I know this isn't going to be for everyone. I'm lucky that I had this space that I could use, but it was a basement full of junk when I started. I had to get rid of stuff. And when I started, I had all of my supplies in my closet in my bedroom, and I just needed a place to create, because I had gone from having a 4-room studio downtown where I taught art for a living and a home studio in one of the bedrooms to having 3 kids in the course of 2 years, and all the bedrooms getting filled and just kind of being confined to the space I could just find in my closet and under my bed. And it was really challenging to fit all those materials that I had from my studios into my bedroom and then pull everything out when I wanted to work on it. It was so frustrating. I spent most of my creative time pulling materials out and then cleaning up. So we had some work done on our basement so the basement would stay dry, and then I decided that I was going to take over part of that space. So the cons are, it's dark. I don't know of a well-lit base. Some basements I'm sure are well-lit because they're like, you know, a walkout basement, but that's not my case. My basement was dark. Cold. I live in Maine, so it's cool in the summer, but it is cold in the winter. It drops down into the 50s, which isn't the most comfortable working conditions if you're doing fine work with your fingers, like you're working with jewelry or anything like that. That's very difficult when it's cold. It can be wet. You may need to do some mitigation, such as we had a company called Basement Systems come in and do a perimeter ditch, interior ditch inside of our basement, and then run drainage under the basement floor so that we wouldn't have a wet basement. And then we run a dehumidifier. So that dealt with the humidity and wetness problem in our basement. So if you have that, that's going to be something you'll have to deal with, and can be an expensive ordeal. However, that's also an investment in your home. So if you do have to do something like that, it's going to increase your house value and also prevent like your floors from rotting, your foundation from having water damage, and other things like that. So it's definitely a worthwhile investment. I'm so glad that we did that. I think it was about 15 years ago. And this can be a pro or a con. It's away from the rest of your family generally. So some people love this because this is a home-based business. I love having that separation of personal life and work life. But if you're someone that wants to be in the thick of it, this might not work for you. I know a lot of people that have built basement craft rooms, and then they never used them because they just got so lonely working in the basement where they wanted to kind of be up like in the family room with their kids or their spouse, and it was just too kind of isolated down there. So if you're someone like that, that may not work for you, but maybe you can carve out a few shelves where you can organize and store your supplies so it's easier to like just take a basket, fill up what you need for your project, and then take it upstairs to the family room or the kitchen table to work, and then easily bring it back down and put it away. Because if you do make it easy to pick up and put away, so you're not spending all your time picking up and cleaning up and laying out your supplies, then it'll make you more likely to craft. You want to take away those friction points. You want to take away the pain points, the parts that make you not want to do the thing you love, right? You want to make it easy and effortless. That's why Amazon is successful. They make it easy and effortless for us to buy things. Free shipping, there takes away a friction point. We can do it from our phone, takes away a friction point. We want to do that with our crafting. We want to make that as frictionless as possible so that we'll do it more often. And the biggest con, and something I would check into first before you decide to build a basement craft room, is test your area for radon. In Maine, I don't know how other states rate with like radon risk, but we have a lot of ledge in our geology here in our topography in Maine. So oftentimes old basements will have radon, which is a gas that is emitted from ledge and rock and whatnot. So you can buy an inexpensive radon test that you can do at home, and then you mail it you open up this test, you leave it in a spot like in your basement for I think 48 hours or something, and then you mail it away, and then they test it and they tell you whether you have radon or not. I think that's how it goes. I don't think it gives you results right then. I think you have to mail it away. But anyway, I would definitely test your basement for radon, and you can mitigate it. It's not like if you have radon in your basement, you can't use it. You'll need to like open windows and get ventilation and all of that, but you will probably want to I would definitely recommend installing a radon sensor, just so you know if there's been radon levels building up, so you can open windows and let it, dissipate and stuff. But I'm really nervous about that sort of thing. So like if I was looking to buy a house and I saw that it had radon in the basement or a radon tester, I probably would be like, nope, not going near it. But you know, everybody has their own level of risk. I'm just really, I'm really nervous about that stuff because radon is the leading, after like smoking, it's the next leading cause of lung cancer. So, you know, I don't want to mess around with that sort of thing, especially where I spend so much time working in the basement. I work full time in my basement studio, other than like editing upstairs and whatnot. I spend a lot of time down here. So the next part of the video, I'm going to take you around to, because this is basically a finished room with no windows. So it's not unlike having like a studio in a spare bedroom, but I will take you over into the old space that I affectionately call the Room of Hoard, and just show you how I've dealt with some of the issues of working in the basement, and also just give you some tips and tricks on how you can take basically an open space with no walls and turn it into your studio. So let's go to the Room of Hoard. This is the real deal, friends. I didn't clean up ahead of time because I just want you to see how it typically looks on a work day where I've got projects in progress. And I'm just going to show you how I store stuff, because if you're going to have an area where you just want to have some shelves where you store things, maybe you don't work in the space unless it's a really messy project, but you just got all your stuff so you can go and like shop your stash, make it kind of like a store. So you can go, it's like, oh, I want to pick out those stamps, I want that paper, I want that embellishment, or I want those markers, I want that pad of paper. Make it so everything is just really organized, and it doesn't have to be pretty. This isn't particularly pretty because I don't film in here very much anymore, except for doing my like messy live streams. I do them on this table over there. I'll show you, but I'm just going to go through and give you some of the ways I've solved some of these just empty corners. This is just a corner of the basement. There were no walls other than like the cement walls on two sides, and then when my husband built that room over there where I film, and that was actually my son's bedroom for many years. So I have a wall there because of that. So let's go through and look at some of the storage solutions and see if it might inspire something for your space, whether it's a spare bedroom or you are going to try to do a basement area. And I'll show you the pros and cons here. So one of the big pros, if you look above my head there, look at that. I just put some nails in the joist there, and I hang up all of my tape. So I've got packing tape and masking tape and double-sided tape, and I can quickly and easily see what I have, grab the one I need, and go off and do my project. So that is just so handy and so useful. Let's spin this around here. And if you look there, I've got a shelf of my wooden stamps. I love to use my wooden stamps, so I want to have them all where I can see them. These are a couple big canvases that I just had to re-gesso, so I don't know what I'm going to paint on them yet, but they're ready to go. And these two big canvases here sit in front of my wall of stamps. So I'm just going to set that off the side again so I can show you. And what I do is I just take binders. And can I zoom out a little bit? And I put, I actually cut up a big map and I stuck it on the spines because I did used to film in here and I want it to look a little bit nicer. But I just put page protectors in there and I slide my stamps in there, and I have them divided by theme. So I have like a lot of different, I have a lot of vintage stamps. So I have vintage nature, I have vintage sewing, I have vintage storybook stamps, vintage crafty secrets, which is a brand I used to really like. And then I have sentiments, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, art supplies, nature, you know, trees. I have like 4 different flower binders depending on what, you know, divided up by what they are. Up high, I have like my holiday stamps, travel stamps, things like that. So, you know, basically it's just a way to have everything handy. And then in these bins, I just recycled some bins. I had some boxes and I put my big backgrounds in like that so I can just flip through them. And then here are stamp sets that I have like either stamps and dies, or it's like something where I have like a theme. Like I have a bunch of, I love sushi themed rubber stamps. I don't know if that's even in camera. So I have like sushi stickers and sushi stamps and sushi washi tape, and I just put it all together in this pocket so I can, you know, so when I go to make a card, I have all those themed things together, even though they're not from the same brand. It works for me. So all my stamps are there. When I'm going to make a card, I just go here. I usually set like my binder down here on this mat, and I pull out the stamp sets I need. I'll grab the embellishments and the paper I want, and then I just go in the other room and I craft. So this could work for you if you're crafting at the kitchen table. You can bring a basket down, you can grab all the supplies you need, and then take it upstairs to your table. Now here I have my sewing machine, so if I leave it set up because I need to mend something or I want to sew something really quick, I can just sit down and do it, rather than having to take it out of its tote and then set it up and find a place to sew. It's just really handy for me. But if I was doing a big project, I'd probably bring that upstairs and work on the kitchen table, especially if it was something that was like a fine project, like a prom dress or something, and I wouldn't want to like have it drag on the floor by mistake. And then, you know, I just store things, you know. It's not pretty, but I have all like with like. So these are all alcohol inks in there. So if I need to refill a marker or I'm doing an alcohol ink project, I'll find that stuff there. You know, can get dusty down here, so I just put a drape over my sewing machine. Nothing matches. It doesn't have to match. Nobody is seeing this, so it can be a total mishmash. That's all sewing stuff, my sewing accessories, my threads and my scissors and my pins and all of that. And it's handy. Now my tables are all doors. So that's an old door that I took off the closet that was one of the closets because they always came off their tracks. We have a 1970s ranch, so I took all those off and made curtains for the closets. And then underneath I can put totes, like scrapbooking totes, sewing machine totes, drawer organizers. You know, like I said, it's not pretty, but it works. I've got my wrapping supplies tucked into that corner. You know, like I said, doesn't have to be pretty. Now this bench is really handy. I took one of those 9-cube units you can get at like Target or Home Depot or Walmart. I took 2 of them and put them together, and then I put a door across it, and then I put, I just painted it, and every few years I repaint it because it gets really gross. And then here I've been doing pastels all month, so I just left all my pastel stuff out so I could come in here and film my pastel tutorials and not have to worry about picking up in between other stuff I was working on. Since I'm doing this, but I'm also filming my regular content, I didn't want to have to clean up a pastel mess in between. So as far as business-wise, that worked really well. I took an old filing cabinet, and in it I keep magazines, but they're just magazines that I've been published in. But if you save your craft magazines, it's a good habit. It's a good storage solution. And then I took these little plastic containers, and they were from the mill. My brother-in-law worked at the mill, and I just glued magnets to the back. And then I keep brads and other embellishments in there, and they just stick onto the filing cabinet. I love the plastic totes that you can get at back to school time at any of your department stores. They're great for storing acrylic paints and other things like that. And those old cube unit shelves, you can adjust them to whatever you need to store, which is really great because my supplies are always ebbing and flowing, and sometimes I need more storage for a certain thing and sometimes I need less. I do have some scrapbook cubes that were a gift from my mom one year, and they're great. And I use the scrapbook cubes and then another 9-cube unit that was rescued from my daughter's bedroom. They don't want it anymore. Some shoe racks that I found on the side of the road. Basically, I stacked all this crap on top of one another, and I made a wall. So there's no wall there. That's just storage units. And then I have some fabric shower curtains behind them, dividing this from my husband's woodworking space. And over here, I have like a shoe organizer with my acrylic paint divided by color. I've got an old poster board rack from Rite Aid when they were going out of business that I store my pastel papers on and larger papers. And that was like $10. So keep your eyes open for, you know, stuff like that because, you know, you can find some really good bargains. This dresser that all my brushes are on, that was an unwanted piece from the house, so I just use it for different things, and I just make sure I label everything so I can find what's in there. So pigment powders, then I've got oil pastels. You know, I just keep everything really well labeled. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's my, you know, awful handwriting, but I know what's in there. That's all embellishments for cards. I've got my my frames that I have left. I've got some pads of paper. And then I've got my art books. And what I did behind this, because it is fairly close, it's about 6 inches from the cellar wall, I put plastic back there to keep moisture from the cement from leaching to my pads of paper. Now I don't keep my fine watercolor paper down here. I mean, I have some Arches pads, but like full sheets, I keep upstairs in a temperature controlled area. I have a big flat file under my bed, and the temperature and humidity doesn't fluctuate up there, so that's fine. Keep all my die cutting stuff there. That was a bookcase I got at a yard sale for $5. I keep die cutting supplies there. Nothing that a minor fluctuation in humidity will hurt. All my cardstocks over there. Record cabinet holds cardstock perfectly. I have in-depth art studio tours if you want to see them. But I just wanted to give you an idea how you could frugally kind of set up a space. I know it's not frugal. I have so much stuff, but I've been doing this for, I mean, I had, before my kids were born, 20 years ago, I taught professionally in my own studios downtown in Bangor. So I had a lot of this stuff. And I think I choose products pretty wisely that will last. That's just an old utility shelf in the corner, which is great because it will house larger, bulkier things. I use like clean trash cans to store bolts of fabric and canvas and, you know, yardsticks and stretcher bars and things like that. So, you know, it doesn't have to be pretty. And I am posting this because there are so many, you know, there's so many beautiful rooms out there, and I don't begrudge anybody from wanting to have a beautiful craft room. I think that's wonderful, and I think my filming room looks pretty snazzy, if I do say so myself. But I don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Find some space that you can grab in your home, whether it's a closet where you can like maybe just, you know, put a little desk in or put a little shelf in there that you can use as a table, or just have a bookshelf that you can use for organized storage so that you can work on your kitchen table. Find a place that can be for you because you're worth it, and it will make all the difference in how much artwork you can create or how much crafting you can do. And that's going to make you a much happier person. And I think that is definitely worth dedicating a little space to. And if the people you live with have a hard time with it, just, you know, remind them how much more pleasant you're going to be around if you have a little space to call your own where you can create. And you may find that other family members will join you in your creative pursuits, and they'll be happier too. So I hope you enjoyed this peek into my basement studio. I do run a dehumidifier a couple months out of the year off and on if I feel like it's getting a little too humid. I open up the bulkhead, which is like the steps to go out into the backyard on clear, dry, warm days to let the air circulate through so I get ventilation. And, you know, just kind of keep safety in mind. Keep a fire extinguisher handy, and, you know, use common sense as always, but a basement studio can be a wonderful thing. And I hope you can find space like that to carve out of your home so that you always have a place to create. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you like these videos. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.